Welcome to the Airgun Show. This week we've got a roundup of hints and tips to help you with your hunting through the autumn and winter months. But first up, I'm out targeting rats with night vision. Right, it's that time of year again and I'm back out after rats. Now, this farm isn't exactly heaving with them, although the farmer reckons there are quite a few around and he just wants me to try and hammer them down before things get out of hand when the weather turns really cold. Now, there is a lot of poultry on this farm and most of the signs of rats seem to be around the chicken runs, but in all honesty, it's just too confined to try and target them there in any sense. Now, unsurprisingly, what's attracting the rats to the chicken pens is the feed that the farmer's putting out for them. So what we're going to do is target the area where the feed is stored, where there's also quite a few signs of rats. Now, with the farmer's permission, I've put out a couple handfuls of poultry pellets. Now, the thinking behind that is that that's a feed that the rats are accustomed to and it should draw them out. The only snag is that because they're quite large pellets, there's every chance that rats will just grab a pellet and dart back into cover. So with that in mind, I've also put out a couple of my usual dollops of liquidized cat food, and the thinking being with that is that because it's runny, rats are going to have to stop and lap it up, giving me time to take shots hopefully. The night vision unit that I'm using tonight is the ATNX sight, and that's mounted on the FX Impact Mark II and it's 177 caliber sub 12 foot-pounds. That power level plus the fact that it's very accurate and very quiet should make it a brilliant tool for the job tonight. Also, it's a nice compact gun, which is really handy when you're shooting in the confines of a farm building. Another great thing is the huge capacity of its side shot magazine, which means I shouldn't need to fumble around reloading that tonight. Now, this is quite a noisy farm. The rats are accustomed to a fair amount of disturbance here, but I'm going to try to keep quiet now and hopefully we'll get a few shots.
Ambushing rats like this can entail a lot of sitting and waiting. Thankfully, the hungry rodents are straight out on the feed, so I don't have to sit it out for too long before the first chance of the night.
That was a good start. That one was pretty close to one of my cat food bait spots, but it didn't quite make it there. It initially looked like the pellet had completely missed it, but it had actually gone straight through its head, so very nice clean headshot to start off with.
My bait spots really are working their magic, and I'm back in action again very quickly.
Oh, that was only about 2 minutes after the first one, and that one was on a bait spot. That was the same sort of distance, about 14 metres away, another good solid headshot, and I also noticed another rat's eyes glinting under the pallet behind it, so there should be more to be had here.
Rats don't always appear exactly where you want them to, even when you're offering them bait, so it's important to be thorough when you're scanning for them.
was a big rat. It was a bit closer than the first two as well. Now it was eating something, but there's not a bait spot there, so I assume it was on a bit of spilt feed.
A sub 12 foot-pound airgun is perfect for this sort of indoors close quarters shooting. And if you listen to the shots, the FX impact is also incredibly quiet at this power level.
That one flopped down into the pallet, but it was smacked very solidly in the head. I saw the last few twitches of its tail, so I've no doubt that it was a good, swift kill. Actually had to wait a bit longer for that one, probably about 20 minutes, but I'm still hopeful that we'll get a few more tonight.
It may look like I'm using a lamp, but the glow you can see is my infrared illuminator. You need a night vision camera or scope to see it so it doesn't alert quarry. Also, I'm not wearing a white jacket. That's just how it looks through our NV camera.
That was a small one, and it was on exactly the same bait spot as one of those earlier ones. Once again, I smacked it straight in the head, and it was just lights out.
There may have been a bit of a dip in the action earlier on, but there are still a few rats willing to venture out, so I'm in no hurry to leave just yet.
That was another one from that very productive corner. We've got quite a heap of rats coming along there. It was another big one too, and again another headshot. Now, I do try to stick to headshots when I'm targeting rats. It tends to ensure quicker kills without rats running on or without being so inclined to run on before they expire. Now, that just makes it so much easier to find them and pick them up when it's time to clear up at the end of the session.
A nice thing about shooting rats from a static position is that it enables you to make yourself comfortable and shoot from the support of sticks. That added support really helps to keep shots on target when you're using heavy night vision gear.
Well, that was the first one from over on that bank. Actually had to wait quite a long time for that shot as well. Things have slowed down a bit. It's probably about half an hour since the last one. It wasn't on a bait spot, but it was feeding on something over there. And another one on the bank. Now that one was on one of the piles of pellets that I'd put out over there. It was really tucking in, and certainly didn't look like it was thinking about darting back into cover. It's just as well that we are starting to see a few on the bank, because the area that was very productive at the start really seems to have gone completely dead now.
Sport might be dwindling, but the action isn't over just yet.
I caught that one straight in the head and flopped it straight into the ditch. Again, quite a long wait for that one, and things really do seem to be going off the boil. I've got a feeling we've seen the best of it for tonight. Well, it's gone 10 o'clock and we haven't seen a rat in a very long time. I've been sat here for about 3 hours and it certainly feels like it's time to pick up the rats that we've shot and get them onto the fire site so we can head for home. But it hasn't been a bad session, it hasn't been frantic, but we've had fairly steady action. The kit's performed brilliantly and now there are a few less rats here. I'm looking forward to coming back another night and targeting a different area. A decent session on the rats there, and hopefully plenty more to follow over the coming months. Now, it's the Airgun Show news.
This is the Airgun Show news. All shooters need to step up their environmental game. That's the message from shooting organisations in response to the new Environment Bill. Priorities of the bill include improving air and water quality, tackling plastic pollution, and restoring habitats to allow plants and wildlife to thrive. Basque said shooters are continuously rising to new challenges, such as reducing the use of plastic wads and improving recycling, and should look to play a key role in meeting the government's environmental targets. The controversial exclusion of shooting from the next Commonwealth Games could actually be a good thing. Scotland's rifle shooting star Shona McIntosh said the decision could actually raise standards, as those at the top of the sport would be forced to improve because they'd be aiming for the Olympic or European Games instead. But she admitted that inevitably people at entry level will be put off from shooting. McIntosh is expected to travel to Tokyo next year and says she has no idea how she'll react to competing in her first Games. Don't miss the new issue of Airgun Shooter, which goes on general sale tomorrow. This one's a night hunting special with none other than Airgun Show presenter Matt Manning on the cover. Inside you'll find tips on putting together a night vision setup without breaking the bank, rabbiting by lamplight, and clearing up stable block rats. There's also a review of Virac's latest bullpup, as well as the BSA Silver Star and a Javelin bipod. Get Airgun Shooter in good newsagents or head to the web address on screen to subscribe. And finally, with voting open for the Great British Shooting Awards 2020, let's take a closer look at one of the categories Airgun shooters will be most interested in. It's the Shooting Apparel Award, and the 5 shortlisted items are the Blazer Hybrid Suit, the Deer Hunter Pro Gamekeeper Jacket, the Harkeela Heat Jacket, the Laxon Woodhay Smock, and Shooter King Huntflex Jacket. You can have your say in who wins. Head to greatbritishshootingawards.com to vote. That was the Airgun Show news.
With autumn upon us and winter just around the corner, we're now approaching what can be the most productive time of year for airgun pest control. With that in mind, I thought I'd pull together a few tips to hopefully help you put more in the bag. Now, natural food is still pretty abundant at this time of year, so my first tip is to focus on areas that contain acorns, beech mast or even sweet chestnuts when targeting grey squirrels in woodland. Here's one that I managed to bag while sitting it out under a stand of oak trees during the annual acorn binge. Well, there you go. That squirrel was just making its way down the tree trunk and it actually had an acorn in its mouth. That natural food supply will soon start to dwindle, and that's when you can encounter a lot of grey squirrels around pheasant feeders. This easy food source can create a real hotspot, as we discovered during a cold day last winter. If you don't share your woodland permission with a pheasant shoot that puts out grain feeders, you can create a feeding station of your own by setting up a hopper. My favourite bait is peanuts, and I used them to account for literally hundreds of squirrels last autumn and winter, including this one.
I've put in a lot of time and effort, not to mention a generous helping of peanuts, to get the squirrels onto this feeder. But it's certainly paying off now.
The evenings may be drawing in quickly now, but shorter days don't have to mean less hunting time. I'm a big fan of ratting with night vision, the added stealth of which can make a huge difference when these crafty critters begin to get lamp shy. Here's one of many that I managed to nail with NV last winter.
I was expecting this area to yield a few rats and, sure enough, it's producing a steady flow of action to keep me occupied. Here's one that thinks it's safe amongst the cover of the pallets.
Of course, a lot of shooters also use night vision for targeting rabbits. Now, many people regard this as a mobile pursuit, but it can also be very productive if you dig in for an ambush. By staking out a productive area, you cut down a lot of the disturbance that can blow your cover, particularly on still evenings when rabbits can hear you walking around from a considerable distance. Here's a recent rabbit that I managed to nail using NV. One of the best things about this time of year is the fact that the leaves will soon be falling, which makes woodland shooting so much easier. Get into the woods just before dusk and cover up your face to help avoid detection, and you may be able to bring some crafty crows to book, as I did during this evening session last winter.
Another crow pitches in within range, and this one appears to be a little more settled.
If you live in the UK, you'll be used to having to contend with wet weather, but rain doesn't have to stop play. If you have a farmyard permission, you may even be able to pot pests from the cover of a barn, meaning that you don't have to get drenched to go out and enjoy some shooting. Here's Andy Watkins clearing out feral pigeons from one of his farmyard permissions. If you do find yourself controlling feral pigeons indoors, do make sure that your backstops are safe, as Andy did there, because you don't want to cause a leaky roof. That's it for this roundup, but I hope that it's given you a few ideas for your shooting over the coming weeks, and hopefully maybe even helps you put a few more in the bag. Don't make the mistake of packing away your airgun just because winter is approaching. There really is some great sport to be had out there, so get out there and enjoy it.
Look out for the new and improved Airgun Shooter magazine, packed full of technique, gear and insight from some of the best shooters in the industry. Brand new look and free video content. Pick up your copy today in stores or online.
That's all for this week, but as ever we'll be back again in a fortnight. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And if you aren't already a member of the BASC, it's time you joined the organisation that works to promote and protect your sport.